Hey guys, welcome to Total Health Live with Dr. Sedano. I am so thrilled that you're here today because we've got an amazing topic. Today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite foods that I incorporate into my diet, into my skin. I'd like to say my hair, but I don't have that issue. But it is one of the most powerful superfoods you can ever use, and that is coconut oil. So coconut oil is a true superfood. And guys, if you're just getting on today for the first time, let me know where you're from. Go ahead, I'm going to check my phone here. Go ahead and chime in. Let me know where you're from. Say hi so I can give a shout out to you and say hello to you. If you have any questions, please let us know. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions for you. And that way we can make this a conversation. Anyway, like I was saying, the benefits of coconut oil. I've been using this oil for years now, probably about a decade or so. And it's funny because when people used to say to me, coconut oil, what are you using coconut oil for? Isn't that suntan lotion? How do you use that? And my kids were always so grossed out because I could eat it with a spoon, and I love doing coconut. I put coconut oil in everything. I mean, I make my food. I had it in eggs this morning. I had a tablespoon of it just before I came out just now for energy, which we're going to be talking about today. But I'll tell you what, it is the most versatile, or one of the most versatile foods you can ever incorporate into your diet. And I totally recommend that you do that. So guys, once again, if you're just tuning in, just let me know where you're from. Say hi. I'll give you a little quick shout out if I can. And let me make my phone here so I can turn the volume off on it so I could see you. All right. So once again, welcome. Let me know where you're from. And guys, hey, if you like what we're talking about today, give us a thumbs up or give us a heart, give us a share, whatever you can do, because this is going to be very powerful, valuable information that's going to really benefit you, your family, and virtually anybody you know. And that is, as I said, the 12 amazing benefits of coconut oil. So let's get right into it. As I said when I started, coconut oil is a superfood. It is just loaded, just packed with nutrients. And what we're going to find when we get into this, you're going to find it's going to help you with cases if you ever have cancer or heart disease, Alzheimer's, seizures, skin problems. I mean, this is probably, like I said, one of the most versatile foods you can ever add to your diet if you haven't already done so. And if guys, once again, if you have questions, go ahead and chime in. And at the same time, if you're using coconut oil now, let me know. Just pop it right into that comment bar that you are using coconut oil. So coconut oil is made up of medium chain fatty acids, or what some people call medium chain triglycerides, MCTs. And how many guys have heard of that? So MCTs are very powerful oil that we hear a lot about now, especially with this craze that's going on called bulletproof coffee. If you guys have heard of bulletproof coffee, it's a great thing. I drink it a lot. I can't say every single day, but I have it a couple of times a week or a few times. And it's one of the best things you can do if you're into coffee. You can actually add some coconut oil to your coffee and some butter. So the recipe is like this. You have about 10 ounces of coffee. You add about a tablespoon of coconut oil, and best if it's raw, virgin, extra, organic. And butter. Now, not just any kind of butter. It really needs to be, what I like to use is Kerrygold, unsalted, grass-fed butter. That's the best kind. So you put 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 tablespoon of the coconut oil, you mix it up in a blender. So guys, it's not like this oily thing sitting on top of your coffee. You actually mix it up in a blender, and it's amazing because it comes out like as if you put heavy cream in your coffee. And it is one of the best things to get you going in the morning. You've got the great antioxidants and the properties that create that alertness in the coffee, but also too, you've got the great fats that are in the coconut oil that actually go right to your brain. So one of the many benefits we're going to get into is just how good coconut oil is for cognitive function of your brain. So it's made up of basically 3 acids or fatty acids. It's got other things in it too, but the main ones are lauric acid. About 50% of it is lauric acid. It's also got caprylic acid and capric acid. And we're going to get into these later on because so many of them have antimicrobial, antifungal, and antiviral properties that are going to be fantastic for things like candida. If you're suffering from that, this is going to be one of the good things you could do for that. Also, a lot of anti-inflammatory properties, which makes it great for skin. So anyway, hey guys, I see Chuck is on the line. I'm going to give you guys a couple of shout outs. Charles, my paisan, welcome brother. Sean LaFave, good to see you. And Pete, love that you're on the line, brother. Glad you guys are all on. So anyway, 91% of the fat in coconut oil is a saturated fat. And I know you're probably saying, there's no way I want that because it's horrible. It's going to clog my arteries. It's going to make me get high cholesterol. It's going to give me heart disease. But the reality is this, guys, the type of fat, the type of saturated fat, which means it's got a carbon chain roughly between 6 carbons to about 12. Lauric acid is the 12 carbon chain. It makes it a very healthy saturated fat. So many cultures where coconut oil is about 60% of their overall calories have very low rates of heart disease and cancer. So this is a fantastic food, even though it's got saturated fat. And one thing I tell my patients too is this: breast milk has saturated fat. So how healthy is that? I mean, we all need that as babies. So of course saturated fat could be good for you, but it's the right kind of saturated fat. Also too, because of the way it's incorporated into your body, it's easier to digest. So it goes right into the liver, and the liver then breaks it up into what we call ketone bodies. And these ketones make it a very, very usable source of energy and fuel. So the smaller size allowing easier permeability for immediate energy. So it doesn't have to go through the whole digestive tract to actually become fuel for your brain. This process, as I said, by the liver, so it's immediately converted into energy. Hey, Kim. Want to give another couple of shout outs. I'm glad you guys are on right now. Hey, Kim. Been meaning to try coconut oil. Excellent. I'm glad you tried it out. This is going to give you a lot of information. It's going to solidify your belief in that because it is phenomenal. It's fantastic, and I highly recommend it. So, once I said it goes through your liver, and once it's in the liver, it actually converts into ketones. And ketones are an excellent fuel source for the brain. We're going to talk about this in a little while, but many people out there are just thinking, well, no, my brain runs off of glucose. I've been told that, and it only runs off of glucose, so I have to have the carbohydrates for that. But the reality is the brain can also run off of ketones. So it becomes a tremendously great fuel source for the brain, so you can start to wean yourself off of these grains, which we're going to get into in a little bit, can cause things like inflammation and cancer. So because of the fact that it has high levels of antioxidants, in the coconut oil, it has been shown to suppress inflammatory cells. So your cytokine cells that are in your body that help with the inflammatory process, this can actually suppress that. And many people, because they start incorporating healthy coconut oil into their diets, they can get away with less grains because they feel more satiated, more satisfied. And once you get away from the grains, you really reduce the inflammation, because one of the top sources of inflammation in your body, which is now being linked, guys, to just about every kind of disease you can think of, from cancer to heart disease to brain issues, is the inflammation. And mainly we get the inflammation in our bodies from a couple of things, but mainly it's grains. We also get it from toxicity in foods like commercially raised meats, sugars, and environmental toxins. But as far as our diet, the biggest part is the grains that we eat. So it reduces the inflammation. Now, because it reduces inflammation, it's also great for heart disease. So it reduces inflammation, great for heart disease because of the high levels of saturated fats in coconut oil. It actually can increase your HDL levels and lower your LDL levels. And that's what we want. We want to raise the HDL levels, so high density lipoproteins, you want to go higher, and low density lipoproteins, you want to go lower. But I will tell you this, guys, so many of us are just looking at HDL and LDL and saying, well, that's the markers for heart disease. It's really not. You really want to get into more particles, and that's a whole nother seminar. But when it comes down to cholesterol, cholesterol is not really the biggest issue. It's particle size. And once again, too many grains cause particle size to get too small. And once particle size gets too small, that is what can embed cholesterol into the walls of the arteries. It's also been shown that the grains can actually cause erosion into the walls of your arteries, which will allow the cholesterol to embed. So we want to stay away from that. Also, too, research shows that the lauric acid and capric acid, and by the way, like I said, lauric acid is about 50% of all of the oil. It actually helps lower the resting heart rate. So another great thing. As I said before, hey Linda, say hi to Linda. Linda just got on the line too. It also helps with cancer prevention. Big thing with that. We talked about this in our cancer seminar, so if you guys haven't seen that, go back and look at some past episodes because we get into this very in depth. But one of the biggest things is when we start to convert our body from a sugar burner, which is the starches, the carbohydrates, the grains, and we convert it more into a fat burner, we remove what sugar likes to feed off of, guys. So cancer loves to feed off of sugar. It thrives on the fermentation process. So cancer loves sugar. In fact, it's got anywhere from 10 to 70 times more receptor sites on it than a regular cell does. So it loves sugar. So if we can start converting our bodies to a more fat fuel source, specifically ketones, which our brain can work perfectly fine off of, we can reduce the amount of cancer because we reduce our grains. So coconut oil is converted in the liver to ketones, which are very usable for our body, very usable for our brain, but not usable by cancer cells. So one of the things we always tell our cancer patients is, you want to starve cancer. You want to just kill it by not giving it a fuel source, and the fuel source is grains. So they cannot use the ketones that are produced by coconut oil. Another thing is, hey Rick, glad you're on the line. Glad to see you, buddy. I hope you get some valuable information today. Anyway, helps with type 2 diabetes. Once again, type 2 diabetes hardly existed in the turn of the century, but when we started to increase more of our healthy, quote-unquote, whole grains, and I'm saying that in a sarcastic way, as we start to increase our healthy whole grains like our, Centers of Disease Control recommended, our American Diabetic Association, our American Dietetic Association, the federal government started to recommend in the 80s, they wanted us to get away from the fats and increase healthy whole grains. We started to see our diabetes epidemic go through the roof. And right now we're at about 30% of our population is either diabetic or pre-diabetic. So when cells become insulin resistant, and why they become insulin resistant? Because of the inflammation that's created by all these grains and toxins in our bodies. When it becomes insulin resistant, glucose can no longer be transported into the cells for energy. The pancreas then has to work much harder to produce insulin. And what do? We go to the doctor gives us a drug, and the drug, all it does is whips the pancreas, keeps whipping the pancreas and whipping the pancreas to produce more and more insulin. But the problem is this, guys, eventually, if you keep whipping that pancreas with more and more drugs, we start to become insulin resistant and the beta cells of the pancreas burn out. And then what we see is type 2 diabetics can become type 1 diabetics. Yeah, and then once you're a type 1 diabetic, now you're looking at insulin dependency. So one of the best ways to avoid this is to actually work with a fuel source that the body can use better that does not require insulin. Once again, the ketones that are produced by coconut oil. So like I said earlier, you take in the coconut oil, it goes through your digestive tract, goes to the liver, and it's converted into ketones, which is a very, very good fuel source. So we can reduce diabetes just by changing our diets away from grains and into more fats. That's simple as that. We can pretty much eradicate diabetes. Also amazing for the skin. Coconut oil is an excellent face cleanser, moisturizer, and even sunscreen. Now, I'm not going to tell you it's a great sunscreen because it doesn't have the same kind of properties as some of the chemical sunscreens we see. But I'll tell you this. For as natural as it is and as good as it is for your skin, it's about a level 7 to 10 is what I heard. So it's a decent sunscreen, but not great. But tell you what, at least it doesn't take your chemicals in from the other sunscreens right into your skin, which is your largest organ. And a lot of times we don't think about that. We think, well, I don't want to take chemicals in through my mouth or my nose, but your skin is your biggest organ. And when we put on our skin, it goes right into our bloodstream. So also the fatty acids, caprylic and lauric acid, have been shown to reduce inflammation. We talked about that earlier, internally and externally, as well as moisturize. So once again, when we look at the research, one of the populations we look at to see just how much aging goes on in our bodies, so I know we're all thinking about anti-aging, but one of the biggest things we can do is to do things that stop the aging process. And the population of people that they watch so closely to see how our bodies age are diabetics. So once again, if we can reduce inflammation by taking the grains out of our diets and adding in more healthy fats, we can actually improve our skin texture and tone and look much younger over a longer period of time. So who here wants that, right? All of us do, right? The other thing is it's antiviral and antifungal. So many people have viruses and fungus, candida, and so on. So lauric acid has antifungal, antiviral, and antibacterial properties and has been shown to be very effective in fighting bacteria, candida, and viruses. And how many times are we looking for a natural solution and instead we turn to what the old standby is, which is an antibiotic? Right, guys? I mean, we all go down to the doctor, and the first thing you're getting is a prescription for an antibiotic. And we come to find out that antibiotics are destroying our body's immune system, destroying our microbiome. And if you get kids and young adults on antibiotics too early in life, you set them up for a higher risk of cancer further down the road. So we don't want to do that. So if you can use a natural alternative that's antiviral, antifungal, antimicrobial, antibacterial, you want to use coconut oil. So another great benefit of coconut oil, guys. And as I mentioned before, treatment for candida and yeast infections. Capric acid and lauric acid have antimicrobial, antifungal properties and shown as an effective natural treatment for candida and yeast infections. So guys, once again, start using that coconut oil for this alone, and it's going to be a great addition to your food. Prevents osteoporosis. Well, turns out coconut oil, another great benefit, increases calcium absorption in your gut. So if you increase calcium absorption in your gut, now you start to increase more calcium that gets laid onto the bone. So your bones have a couple of different things going on. It has a matrix and it's got a covering on it. The matrix is almost like the scaffolding, and the covering is the calcium. And the calcium is what gives it its rigidity. So when you start to increase calcium absorption in the body, and once again, this is going to stop all the ladies out there from taking those, Boniva and Fosamax, because those two drugs alone can cause spontaneous fractures to where you're just walking along and your leg just cracks. I mean, who wants that? I mean, that's the serious problem. Not to mention, when you're on those kinds of medications, you can't even get dental work done for upwards of a year. So once again, start using coconut oil to help increase calcium absorption in your body, and that way you can start to fend off osteoporosis. And one of the other things you could do too, and this is going to be a thumbs up to Rick out there, you want to do things like lift weights and exercise. And I know Rick out there can attest to this. When you start lifting weights, you increase bone density. There's a law called Wolff's Law that states that when you increase the load on the body has to adapt to it. And one of the things that you can do to increase bone density is also lift weights. And I'm not talking about water weights. I'm not talking about just bands. I'm not talking about cables. Those are all good things too. But I'm talking about lifting dumbbells and barbells where you're actually putting weight on the body. So it's another great way to prevent osteoporosis. Also too, guys, brain function. Wow. Your brain is made of 60% fat. So the majority of your brain is fat, and I know a lot of us I've been called a fathead sometimes, but that's a whole nother story. But you want to avoid, foods that are inflammatory and add these good fats back in, and a great brain builder is healthy fats. So adding healthy fats to your diet, once again, improves the cognitive function of the brain. So because of their small size and absorbability, medium chain fatty acids, or MCTs, are an excellent source of fuel for the brain. We talked about that earlier. Your brain can run off of ketones, and it doesn't require insulin. So the great thing is this: it can also help Alzheimer's patients and patients with epileptic seizures, because one of the problems with Alzheimer's patients is they can't metabolize and use insulin properly, so they can't use sugars then as a fuel source for the brain. So what they can use instead, which helps build healthy brain cells and healthy brain tissue, is these medium chain fatty acids, or these MCTs. These are found in the coconut oil, and it's a great, once again, fuel source for your brain. So patients with epileptic seizures, patients with Alzheimer's, and so on, can greatly improve their brain function. And I challenge you guys, try doing this instead of drinking a coffee or a Red Bull or any of those other monster drinks or whatever. If you want to get good brain function without that crash, try coconut oil. Literally take a teaspoon or a tablespoon of it. Guys, once you get past a little bit of oil taste in your mouth, it's delicious. It's coconut. So if you like coconut, you're going to love trying this. Another thing too, improved energy and endurance. So once again, it turns out that coconut oil is fantastic because it is a long-term burning source. And in fact, what we're seeing a lot of times now, guys, is this. We're seeing where Instead of triathletes using the old standby of carbo loading, where they're eating a lot of pasta the night before or pancakes or whatever they're having, they're now going to an alternative fuel source which burns much slower and more evenly, and that is the fat. So that's the coconut oil. So they'll take coconut oil before they go out on their runs or before they're about to swim or bike or cycle or, swim, bike, or cycle. So they have the alternative fuel source, so it has a much longer burn. And that's what they're doing now. So much better. So medium chain fatty acids are sent directly to the liver, as we talked about earlier, and converted into energy. Because they're easily digestible, medium chain fatty acids produce longer sustained energy and can actually increase your metabolism. So it's got a lot of great fat burning properties too. Also too, a lot of great muscle building properties, right? So once again, for all the same reasons we talked about earlier, you want to incorporate coconut oil into your diet because it also helps to burn fat and build muscle at the same time. And last but not least, one thing that everybody wants to talk about is weight loss. Yes, eating fats will help you lose weight. I know it makes no sense, but think about this. Guys, if you want to fatten up a cow, all right, so we want to fatten up a cow because, we want to have meat. What do farmers do? They give it grain. They don't give it fat, they give it grain. So what it's done is fattened us up. So countries that have much higher fat diets, and I mean quality fats, have lower rates of heart disease, lower rates of cancer, lower rates of obesity. So we want to incorporate this. So studies show that capric acid is effective in burning fat for energy, improves thyroid function, which is your glandular system, which helps metabolize things, and suppresses appetite. So the capric acid, which is one of the components of oil, the coconut oil, is in fact an appetite suppressant. So not only does it help you burn more calories, it helps suppress your appetite, and the caprylic acid has been shown to have the same effect as fasting. And I do this a lot of times, guys. When I do a fast, I will have coconut oil as part of the fast. There's things called a monofast where you do basically you're eating only one type of food. Have it as coconut oil and just eat that one food for a day or two and have that and see how well you feel. I guarantee you one of the best benefits of coconut oil is it does slim down the tummy. So it's great for tummy fat, all right? So in closing, hey, Nick. Nick's on the line too. Glad to see you're on here. In closing, guys, hey, if this is good, it makes good sense to you, then subscribe to our channel. Get on with us other times. But more importantly, like and share this. You know what? I want to tell you that my purpose of doing this is to be the voice of truth because I feel there's so much misinformation out there about total health. And whether you're looking at the magazines or the media, the TV, the medical profession, all over the place, you're getting a lot of misinformation. So my purpose and desire is to be the voice of truth for you and to make the complicated health issues a lot simpler, just to boil it down and make it simpler so it's much easier to understand. So like I said, guys, I love and appreciate you for being here. If you like what we said today, then just give us a little thumbs up, give us a heart shape, share it out. There's people all over the world or all over the country or all over your neighborhood maybe that can really benefit from this information. If we can save one life by getting people off of these grains and getting them onto healthier fats, if we could save one person from heart disease or cancer or diabetes or Alzheimer's or epileptic seizures, guys, we got to do that. So please share it out to people. Let's get people healthier in this country. I love and appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining me today. Dr. Nick Sedano, speaking the voice of truth. God bless. Have a great day. Bye-bye.